I never saw an inexplicable phenomena during a space flight, but on a flight from Washington to Moscow, I saw a strange, clearly triangular object. It was traveling in the same direction as our plane. It was flying at about 1,500 meters, some 1,000 meters from us. Our velocity was 950 kilometers an hour. And the object's about 1,500 kilometers an hour as it flew past us and vanished. I reported it to the passengers and the crew. No one understood what it was. It was not an airplane, only a triangular, brightly white object. It did not send any message. It was definitely a UFO sighting. Unfortunately, I have no other similar experiences. Other cosmonauts have described seeing such UFO phenomena. I don't really believe in them, even though much is written about it. I've talked to space pilots from the USA and the USSR, but they have not confirmed these stories.
One of the KGB's most interesting reports tells of a Soviet Army combat operation against UFOs in Vietnam in the summer of 1965. 3 missile batteries engaged an unidentified flying object. The UFO returned fire with a needle-thin blue ray. In an instant, the ground radar, launch platforms, and all metal objects were reduced to smoldering scrap iron. 200 personnel were killed. The UFO vanished silently into space.
I'm Vladimir Ovinsky, chairman of the Samara Ufologist Club and head of the UFO Research Center, Alpha. At midnight, near the city of Samara, an Army radar detected a triangular object that discharged rays upwards. The object landed near the radar base, and 2 guards suddenly disappeared. When they returned after 90 to 120 minutes, the serial numbers of their weapons had been eradicated. The radar showed how the object dissolved in many shining pieces. According to experts, it was caused by some material ricocheting from the uneven surface. When the object landed, it reacted to the radar beams by aiming a powerful impulse at the radar antenna. It was destroyed. There was commotion at the base. The machinery was destroyed and 2 guards had disappeared. A sensational incident in a secret base. Once the guards had returned and the object had flown away, they found an impression in the field where the object had landed, caused by a powerful explosion or huge pressure. The incident was unique, but there was more to come. A triangular object was seen over the city of Samara. It also had lights like this. Its motion was pulsating. A housewife saw an object like this from her own window. It happened in Samara, a bustling industrial city.
In the 1980s, the Soviet Defense Ministry ordered army units to investigate all UFO incidents and report them to the KGB. With the end of the Cold War, UFO researchers too have been able to study Secret Service and military intelligence reports from various countries. Over a period of 3 years, the databank of Russia's leading UFO publication, Terminator, has collected a good 3,000 reports of UFOs and a large number of sensational photographs. Analysis of the report reveals that UFOs have appeared in large numbers during politically difficult times. According to researchers, sunspots and related atmospheric disturbances have increased at such times. Russian UFO investigators say that the next restless period will occur at the turn of the century, when many UFOs will appear. According to Professor Vladimir Azhaja, head of the Russian UFO Research Center, ufology includes the study of human interaction with other forms of intelligence. Russian researchers are also seeking a solution to the problems of time and dimension associated with UFOs. Time at the edge of a revolving UFO is different from time at its central point. The time difference eliminates gravity. Azhaja has personally encountered UFOs and beings from space.
I've encountered the phenomena 3 times. Twice I've seen a UFO in flight. Once I've been in close contact, which is the term used in Professor Hynek's classification. The being I encountered was about 3 feet tall, pale and bald, resembling this doll I'm holding. No comparative study has been conducted on how many documents there are in the Russian and American files, but I assume there are many more in the USA. Because the UFO phenomena have been covered up in Russia, there are fewer documents about them too. The archives are now being opened, and recently we've received 1,200 documents from the KGB. We expect to find even more documents. I assume all governments are doing the same thing. At first, everything new is being covered up. They're trying to use the technology it offers and the knowledge that can be used by the military. Also, there's a social reason for the cover-ups. This new information might cause unrest. 2 days before I came here, a UFO was sighted in Moscow, on Kalinin Street, near the site of the bloody riot on May Day. The UFO was sighted at night. Our statistics show that UFOs annually abduct up to 5,500 people who never return. This is an absolute fact. Most of them are young people. Modern science can't explain this phenomenon. The Russian Science Academy is rather serious about it. For instance, last year, the KGB gave me an entire dossier with several letters and descriptions by eyewitnesses and people who have experienced an encounter.
UFOs are a worldwide problem. In recent years, they've been a key issue in the news media in the United States. One of the most recent talking points has been Harvard University psychiatrist John Mack's study of more than 100 cases of abduction by UFOs.
Recent developments of interest here in the United States among researchers like myself and colleagues of mine is the apparent abduction or capture of up to 5 American F-14 Tomcat jet fighters by alien vehicles commonly known as UFOs. These captures began in September of 1988 when we lost the first F-14 fighter jet, Navy fighter jet, to action by a UFO. Then a couple months later in December of 1988, we had 2 F-14 Tomcat jet fighters captured by a large delta-shaped craft over Cabo Rojo, the southwest corner of Puerto Rico. Then later, in 1989, in January, we lost another 2 F-14 Tomcat fighters believed to be involved in pursuit of UFOs over the Cabo Rojo area of southwest Puerto Rico.
In 1947, the Second World War was not long over, and the CIA was established. A UFO exploded and crashed in New Mexico. There were dozens of eyewitnesses. The United States Army took possession of the wreckage of the UFO and placed a secrecy ban on all related information. Soon afterwards, President Harry Truman ordered the establishment of the top-secret Majestic 12 group. Its task was to coordinate U.S. security against a threat from space. The group was given the job of secret UFO investigations. The Army collected the remnants of the crashed UFO. The bodies of 4 space beings were found in the wreckage. One of the humanoids was still alive when soldiers transported them to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. President Eisenhower set up the Robertson Commission, which was to be under CIA control. It was assigned to protect the United States from UFOs and conceal from the public all information about them. There are claims that Eisenhower met with space beings at Lake Maroc in spring 1954. The U.S. government and the space beings are said to have made an agreement under which the Greys, as the group were known, would provide the United States with space technology and would be allowed in return to carry out genetic tests on humans. U.S. defense technology has developed flying saucer-like aircraft. In a top-secret area in Nevada stands the closely guarded military research center, Area 51. Here, it is claimed, saucer-like flying vehicles have been tested in collaboration with humanoids. U.S. aerospace technology has developed new super aircraft, which are undetectable by radar. The superplanes achieve speeds of almost 9,000 kilometers per hour. The tailplane has been entirely removed from the models of the future. The UFO cover-up in the United States has entered a new phase. Is the government finally relaxing its strategy based on national security? Pressure on the government is growing. Recently, Congressman Stephen Schiff demanded information on the almost half-century of UFO cover-up policy.
There's every reason to believe that there was at least one live alien at the 2 crash sites in New Mexico in July 1947. And that, of course, if there was a live alien, he was examined by the U.S. government officials. There were certainly dead bodies, which were also examined. Whether there is an agreement between aliens and the U.S. government, I've heard all kinds of rumors. I simply do not know. It's in my gray basket. Maybe. We don't know. So I believe there is overwhelming evidence that the original MJ-12 documents and some new ones recently received are genuine. All kinds of claims of fraud have been made. None of these have been substantiated. I've written a 108-page report about the documents that lists more than 30 pieces of information that were not known before my research and which nobody on the outside could have known. I even have the opinions of people who worked for President Truman that the documents are most likely genuine. We don't really know. There is one slight indication of a change in government policy. The National Security Agency, which spends about $10 billion a year in secret in the U.S., listening in on communications from all over the world, has in the past refused to release any of its many UFO documents. It admitted they had them, but it refused to release them. I have recently heard, within the last 2 weeks, that they have notified a researcher who filed a Freedom of Information request for their UFO documents that they would be sending him more than 200 such documents. If that's the case, somebody has changed his view somewhere. The Soviet government, on the other hand, has been more open, and a number of documents have been released, official military documents from the Soviet Union. That may encourage America to release some of its information.
President Clinton and UFO investigators held secret talks in the winter of 1993-94. Why?
You have to remember that up till now, most of the contact that's been made has been unorganized, anecdotal, episodic. And it is time for the civilian community, not the military, but the civilian community of the world to begin to take this seriously and to take responsibility for researching this and for making contact. Our assessment is that these are real. We are not alone, and that there is overwhelming evidence this is the case. They need to know that we have, in the United States, extraterrestrial spacecraft and bodies that have been retrieved. They need to know that there have been major sightings involving tens of thousands of people in Belgium. They need to know that in Mexico that there is, to this day, overflights in daylight and at night of disc-shaped and triangular craft that are clearly of extraterrestrial origin. So we need to bring this information to a world population. Up to this point, I have to say that the government has been unwilling to discuss this for national security, technological, and other reasons, mainly dealing with panic in society. But the civilian community has not been acting in a responsible way in how it has been speaking of this subject, because the worst thing that would happen would be to bring this information out in a way that would panic society and which could cause people to lose hope for the future. And I think that we have to be responsible in what we are saying and doing. And this is a very key point to this second phase of the CSETI project, is that our intentions to brief world leadership and to brief the world are to do it in a way that are non-harmful to the consciousness of humanity.